As I reflect on the day, I think about what motivated the actions I performed. Were they driven from an internal state, what we call income, or were they driven for a certain external result, which we call outcome? When I am outcome focused, I notice how easily my energy depletes. I have to think a lot, sometimes worry a lot, try to control a lot. So much expansion and expense. But when I come from a place of fullness or income, contentment, a very free state, my energy is saved. There's a sense of almost flow as I go through the day. I can think less, certainly worry less, and release control. There is patience, respect, a sense of ease. My inner state of calm remains intact, so that not only am I not losing energy, it feels like I'm accumulating energy. The more I operate from this place of fullness and peace, the more peaceful and full I become. And I switch the way I operate from the inside out rather than the outside in. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Good evening and welcome to Interview with Raj Yogi. And tonight's session, the topic is the impact of spiritual purity. So we had used that word spiritual purity because purity may have some negative connotations to some souls. Maybe for some, they're neutral about it and want to know more. So I was thinking a lot about this topic in terms of, first and foremost, the journey of just learning what that is through the lens of Raja Yoga. And perhaps maybe that's where we'll start. What is spiritual purity?
It's interesting because often in Raj Yoga, we use the word spiritual or spirituality and purity interchangeably. So to say spiritual purity is kind of like doubling up. And the reason we use them interchangeably is because spirituality means to experience myself to be a spirit. So the true identity, the eternal identity of the soul. And that comes with certain capacities, that eternal identity. I'm sort of free, if you will, liberate. I feel very full or content. And so that changes the way I operate with the physical realm. So purity is these various qualities of how the soul operates. We operate in a very pure way. The essential meaning of purity in anything, physical or anything, is that nothing foreign is mixed in. So, in other words, the true state of that particular entity. So, if I was talking about gold, we'd say real gold. There's nothing mixed in. There's no artificiality. Pure vanilla extract. There's nothing mixed in. It's just the real thing. So the same applies for living or non-living. Nothing foreign is mixed in, and therefore it has certain capacities or ways of being experienced. So when I am true, real self, nothing foreign is mixed in. There's no physicality, if you will. I operate or present a certain way. And one is I'm very content. So the actions are no longer motivated for outcomes, results, expectations. There's a fullness to the self when I'm in that spiritual or real state. And that completely changes the results of the action. So there's a ripple effect. But in essence, it just means nothing foreign mixed in, the real self.
So could you just really say it's purity? We don't even have to say spiritual purity. That is there such a thing as purity when it's not spiritual?
Well, yes, as physical things can be pure.
You can imagine if I just called it impact of purity. I guess we could look at orange juice and vanilla extract.
You could just actually say the impact of purity. Yeah. Today I was in a couple of physical classes, and we use the term pure in physicality, actually in physical endeavors. When we are, so I heard people describe certain forms of dance as the most pure form of movement. And what they're saying is it's closest to true alignment, to the true. So when I am close to true, accurate, healthy alignment, then we say very pure movement. So, and there's the result is there's a very different qualitative experience. So the results are very different. So benevolence is connected to purity, whether we're talking about the soul or really anything.
I was reflecting today on just the aspect and the study of soul consciousness. And was really feeling that even that is a journey. I know you share that. You use this. I like this example of a sandwich. If you learn about soul consciousness, you go through the layers, and then at the end, there's the other loaf of, the other slice of bread, and it's like on the other end, perhaps maybe one's understanding and experience of purity is transformed or matured. But like, I was just feeling that there seems to be a huge relationship with how much have I really gone into the reality of being the soul. It feels like it's very connected to what I feel is going to help me get back to that aligned state, like a state of purity. But when we're body conscious, our ideas of purity can be quite superficial, or maybe filled with a lot of negative connotations.
Often I think purity is connected with things like truthful and clean. So we might say pure intention, very clean, very truthful intention. And because of that, it starts to involve the conscience, if you will. And so we can have very challenging, almost a love-hate relationship with purity. It's very attractive to us. We like it in our water and food and air. So we like purity. But the moment we start to speak about the self this way, it might trigger some of those issues around cleanliness and truthfulness, which maybe we haven't been capable of upholding. So there might be some little feeling of feeling bad or judged, which of course isn't the case at all. It's a very understandable thing that's happened to us in forgetting ourselves and dropping out of pure consciousness. So that can often create a love-hate relationship with purity.
It's interesting you share about that, because we hear this word purifier, water purifier, air purifier, and it sounds all good. But when you hear a purifier, or to be purified in a spiritual sense, it can really have really negative connotations. And the intent of this topic was really to really go deeper into what is going to purify me. But it can be such a heavy thing. I remember having to do some research at one time, quite a few years ago, and that word purification had really scary things on the internet. So it was actually quite shocking and quite puzzling at the same time, of what has happened with our relationship, that it's just a word. And as you said, when it comes to like orange juice, water purifier, air purifier, no problem. And something is so different when it comes to this with respect to ourselves.
We definitely have everyone has their own unique relationship with purity. And the bottom line is, that a clean heart is a happy heart. So there is a relationship between purity and happiness. And it's really for us to understand what purity is. And because there's really no way around it, we sort of need it. Again, we get this in other contexts, that when we have truthful or accurate alignment physically, the body's happy, there's not going to be injury, I'll get full benefit. It makes total sense to us. Or if I have a pure diet, the body's happier. So we totally get that it's really important to health and well-being. But there's obviously been other things connected to it, or maybe a little bit of loss of faith in the self. Because one of the deepest, I think, experiences of purity is self-respect or worthiness. This is a very pure relationship with the self. If that's gone, which it might very well be, we're very now sensitive to external validation because that self-respect might be gone. If that's gone, then that's going to be a huge obstacle in approaching the very thing I need to restore that happiness and peace. So things that we sort of have to work out.
When you were talking about self-respect and purity, it moved my heart. The reason why it's as if we have to even just like relearn or re-educate ourselves because of where we've come to, where we don't even think that our natural alignment is actually of self-value. And it's interesting because I do recall having a lot of sessions with really young children, and even some that are maybe relatively just younger. When you just talk about purity, no problem. I find that interesting, but the older we get physically, there, it's not an age thing. It's just interesting what happens inside the soul. If you have any thoughts about them.
I think that, for each of us, when we all begin in a pure state, and again, we operate a certain way when we're in a pure state, we're able to, we could say, honor the heart, or honor our highest potential, or honor our core values. We just kind of operate well. And as we, for very understandable reasons, as we start to lose our sense of self, our consciousness is that probably the first thing to become impure, and then everything follows after that. So foreign things start to get mixed in, such as fear and ego and attachment and desire, comparing, greed, insecurity. These distort our behavior completely. And we start to dishonor the heart or dishonor our core values. We'll rationalize it, of course, but it's really sitting a little bit heavy, and we start to lose that sense of faith or respect for the self. And so to be able, I think, which I've always appreciated about Raj Yoga, it acknowledges we've got to heal that deep spiritual injury. We have to return to purity, but we have to do it with compassion and understanding, where before it might have been guilt, shame, regret, this confession and punishment and all of these types of things. It has to happen. We have to become healthy. But is there a path that is understanding and compassionate to move us towards that state? That would be ideal.
It brings us to this question of the role of the soul everyone remembers as God, Allah, Prabhu, Ishwar. In terms of his role as purifier, of course, this is a sensitive topic for many, but how does that work? What is his role in terms of what that looks like for us? And why can't we just sort of get our act together by ourselves?
Just as we have very confusing feelings about purity, we also have very confusing feelings about the purifier. And it's a lot of projection, of course. These ideas we get in our own head about ourselves that we project onto God, because that being, entire function of that being is to benefit souls, to restore purity, knowing that's the most benevolent state. So they are sort of saying, I'm just trying to help. And we think, again, judging and unworthy and all of these things. And it's like, no, that's your own ideas. It's got nothing to do with me. So if the more we can sort out purity, I suppose the more the relationship with purifier. But the basic premise is that if we can connect with a pure being, the company of that one's purity will actually restore my own purity. We're deeply influenced by the company we keep as consciousness. The energy starts to attune to that one. So it's a very simple, it's a very neutral situation. I'm just connecting to, I'd been connecting before to what we call vices, to ego, and that was clearly distorting me. So now I'm trying to connect to something very pure that will restore my true state. Judgment has nothing to do with it, but I appreciate that being acknowledges what might be going on from our perspective. And so really spent a lot of time trying to explain, not judge, but explain, really share understanding so that we can engage in this journey where there probably will be a lot of resistance, but we can engage in it with good feelings towards the self.
So I respect that we started a little late with a little bit of IT issues. And so I'll just stretch it out a little more. There was one thing that you had mentioned about, what happens the older we get. We've been affected by these different things like fear and some of these different experiences. It's an experience and it leaves a big imprint and an impact that many don't feel it's possible to really get rid of that experience. So just when you were sharing about, it's actually a very neutral thing in terms of connecting to that soul. What has your experience been like in terms of what that feeling feels like, in terms of what it means to be purified? I feel that being the study that we have some quite still violent ideas about that. And, there's a lot of girding going on, maybe eyes closing and forceful thoughts. And it's just a journey, it seems like, to be able that what is this experience of being purified feels like.
I know that in the course we talk about this fire of yoga because fire removes alloy, but we're so physical, we take it very literally and that we're going to burn. But then we go on to add, if you can just hang in there a little longer, the rest of the sentence comes. It's a very cool and loving fire. So there is a liberation, a freedom, a relief in the soul that happens when they have a very positive connection to the purifier. It's such liberation, as if my true self is being freed. So it's a very cool and peaceful and grounding and nurturing experience. But it is like a fire, removing that which is not me.
Sneak in one more question in regards to when you were sharing about he has to explain a lot, and that when you were sharing about just the impact of that experience being with that one, it feels like purity is also about re-education, and that part of that re-education is what it is, but even just that connection and that experience with him.
We talk about Raj Yoga as a study and present the Supreme Soul, God, in a very unique way as a teacher. And then go on to share that this is actually an education where we're just being reminded, which is such a hopeful model, because it's saying that underneath all of these crazy ideas that may have gotten into the soul, because we're just sort of making things up and sharing these ideas with each other over time. But deep down, there's an inner wisdom that's being awakened, as well as there's a memory of that pure state in the soul. It's very hopeful. So once I'm liberated from these other crazy and very mixed ideas, mixed feelings, then this deeper memory can be awakened that's very hopeful and can cooperate with the journey.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you for those for joining us. It's a really deep topic, meaningful topic. Perhaps we'll have to somehow revisit it on another evening. We have a queue. I don't even remember what those queue of topics were. It's just when we start, we get on such a roll and we only have so much time. So we'll have a reflection now.
One of the most beautiful ways we like to use this word pure is pure love. We could say spiritual love, but pure love. This is a love which has no conditions. It's a love of the soul to soul. It's not based on anything temporary. It can see beyond the temporary, accommodate, embrace, understand the temporary. Very deep, mature, noble, royal love based on truth. Can I have pure love for myself? To see myself in the deepest possible way as a soul, a child of God, a traveler through time that has had many different experiences, but in essence, intrinsically beautiful, elevated. If I can have this pure love for the self, then I will love the journey of becoming pure. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. If you have topics you wish for us to explore, feel free to email us. Feel free as well to check the center's website for sessions we have on site at the Inner Peace Center, formerly known as the Northeast Center. Also at the Academy downtown. We have sessions as well online sorry. No, we have sessions online as well. Oh, sorry, did I say that the One Day Academy is on site? So we also have courses and those require registration as well. All of that is on the website. And we usually have an English workshop as well, the Inner Peace Center. I'm only mentioning that because in the past we've been mentioning it was on Saturdays to 12:30, sorry, I think 1 o'clock to 4:30, but now it's been shifted to Sundays for Sundays of the month, I believe from 12 o'clock to 3:30. So just so you know, that has been updated as well. So thank you for joining. Again, visit Eventbrite or the website for upcoming sessions. Thank you.